what I've now lovingly referred to as a podcast, because the podcast sounds way cooler than joining a Zoom call or joining a Google Meet call. Hey, Linda Hammer, thanks for being here. Hey, Marian, just in time and good to see you. Take a moment to relax and settle in. A year of powerful marketing. I am particularly pretty excited about this. This is content near and dear to my heart from my advertising marketing side of my brain. And I can tell you that it's not always that easy. And I want to try and share a couple of big picture things on the call today that will sort of frame what we have, how we can set up our year of marketing. And the most important thing that I get to do, oops, let me start the timer, is not talk and let our fantastic agents talk about what they do. But I want to frame a couple things real quick. So here's where we are. I have a consistent marketing message that resonates with my ideal client, right? I would challenge you, if you're listening to the call now or the recording, pick a number in the back of your mind, right? And if you were at the main Master Your Craft session, we rated ourselves on a scale of 1 to 5. Like 1, yeah, not so much. 5, pretty darn good. Ask yourself where you are now. And I always say it the same way, very lovingly. I don't care what your number is. I just care that you know what your number is, right? It could be a number. It could be a 1. You're like, Jake, I'm horrible at this. I'm okay with that as long as we're okay not staying there, right? I want to sort of find ways to move that needle a little bit. And we're going to talk about 3 different ways that we can do that. So first, we're going to start with a special guest. I want to give them as much time as I possibly can. And then I'm going to jam in a whole bunch of stuff just so that we can set the stage for what I think is going to be one of the best office meetings where you'll dig in and do the work. And again, shout out to Joanna, Jay, and Michelle for sort of letting us hijack the office meetings, but turning the office meetings into working sessions. And that's been the goal of this whole piece, is that you can live the business plan every day and work on that. And Christian and I had a little side conversation last night where we've got some really big stuff coming up for the new year. Remember yesterday, Jennifer, I told you, well, there won't be any new stuff on my plate today. Well, apparently at 7 o'clock, you can still get new stuff added to your plate. And I'm super good with that. Yeah. But I want to plant this seed first, this when, what, who. And I made the note that the order is intentional because when you hear it that way, you're like, Jake, I don't know if you know how to say this, but it's who, what, when most of the time. Here's the problem for most of us. We focus so much on the who that we never make it past that step. We get locked up on who is the person that's my ideal client or my avatar, like all the stuff that goes into picking the person, that we don't make it to step number 2. And I am just as guilty of that. I overthink the first step. I usually equate this to be like when you read a great book. You can think of like it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. No author in the world really just writes the first line and goes in. They come back and write that first line much, much later in the process. I don't want us to get caught up on who, but what I want us to think about is when. When am I going to do something? Because doing something to the wrong audience is still far better than not doing anything at all. So keep those thoughts in your mind as we work through this. And let's talk to our special guest. Super casual. Thank you for joining us. Your voices are far more interesting and better than mine. And being active agents and as great as you guys are at doing this marketing piece, I really want to hear your thoughts. And we'll just sort of go around the room and just have a couple questions and sort of keep it pretty light and breezy. And anything we need to revisit and deep dive into, I'll probably reach out to you and be like, hey, can you record a little bit more content with me so we can get into some of these topics? So from a big stage, Leslie, we'll just start with you and then I'll go to Lyndon and Marian. How, when you sit down in the month of December or January, do you plan out a big calendar? Do you have like here's the things we have to do? I know you've got some consistent things. And by the way, it's okay to have any system as long as you have a system. Leslie, give me a quick view of how you think through that for the year.
Well, for me and my team, I have 2 people on my team.
Yep.
And we all sort of have the same personality. And I learned a long time ago through when I was mentoring and doing the Brian Buffini courses, that looking at a whole year for me personally was very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that was too big of a scope for me to do. So I broke it down to each month.
Perfect.
That really helped me feel like I wasn't overwhelmed and had too many things on my plate. Our team works very intentionally. So we do not do a lot of marketing to the masses and marketing to people we don't necessarily know. The only thing we do in neighborhoods is going to be the neighborhoods we have a footprint in. That means where we've had listings. But we sit down monthly, and Megan, my daughter's on my team. She's in charge of some things. Anthony Pace is on my team. He doesn't get into it as much, and I think it's sort of like a and I think, and no offense to any male that's on this podcast, but I think it's harder for men to do those intentional steps. They feel like, oh, this doesn't seem manly, or this doesn't. He's like, Leslie, are you sure?
I really appreciate you saying that, because that is true. It is. That's.
I think male agents, and one of my Buffini classes years ago, I had an agent, and he is now with another brokerage, but he's really, really sweet. And he stood up one day and he goes, I'm not doing those pop-up things. And I said, JC, what are you talking about? He says, pop-up things. I go, you mean the Popeyes? And he goes, yeah, those things. Like, I think it's really hard for guys to really do it. So Anthony, I put him in charge of other things because those just don't come naturally to him. But we do it monthly.
Okay.
And we set out so that monthly everybody gets their home anniversary card in the mail, their birthday cards in the mail. They get all kinds of cards in the mail because Megan and I stalk our clients online. So if somebody has a new baby or a new grandchild or a graduation, they get a card in the mail. So we have a process that we do monthly, and it makes us feel like we're not too overwhelmed. And that process,
I'm looking for the applause button to hit the applause button, because I love that.
And the process, we do it no matter how busy we are or how not busy we are, because you'll lose touch of those processes the more busier you are.
I love that.
So
I love that. Thank you, Michelle DuPont. I love that, Leslie. We're going to come back to that because I want to unpack a few things on that as well. And thank you for hitting that note without even me prompting you of, if you don't do the system somewhat consistently, it just disappears. So thank you. Linda, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good.
Tell us a little bit about your plan. What does it look like? How do you think about it? What's your strategy? I know it's not just make it up every day, because I've seen you work and you're too darn intentional to just make it up.
So my husband Steve is on the line.
Hey, Steve.
Also, and he works with me. He is not an agent, but he helps me a lot with my marketing. And we are in the process right now. He's been working on it all week. We, as part of the business planning process, we do the marketing work. We set up things ahead for the year. We set it up, what we're doing with postcards, what we're doing with whether that's, personal marketing or quantum digital or all those kinds of things. We get that as much on automatic as we can. We try to determine when our client events are going to be. We try to kind of look at the costs. That's what we're in the midst of right now. What did we spend this last year? What was effective? Should we spend that money again next year? What should we change? Should we reduce the amount of postcards? Should we, all those things? Is the social media, the way we're doing social media, working or not? What changes do we need to make?
I love that. And that's sort of this unspoken piece that I have probably mistakenly left out of this conversation, only because it's like part of me is like, I just want you guys to do it and spend some money. And I know it's costly. Like we'll deal with how it works in the return later. But I love that you mentioned that because it's easy to just do the thing and spend the money and not ever retroactively say, is it actually beneficial to me? Yeah.
Right. Like, and then, so you can't really do everything for the whole year, but then we try to focus on quarterly items. So I'm kind of a ninja person.
Yep.
And I do my weekly MMA, they call it, every week. And I meet with my accountability person every Monday. And on there, on that document is what you want to do for the quarter. So that's where kind of my quarterly goals are. So it might be like right now we're working on planning the appreciation event for March.
Yes.
It might be okay.
Do you do multiple? Now that you say that, do you do multiple?
I have.
And I'm not challenging you to do multiple. I mean, I am sort of, but also.
Well, I have done. I really want to do a second one, but I haven't figured out. And I know who I want to do it for, a group of clients, a smaller one. So I do the large one, and then I want to do some smaller ones. And, sorry.
No, that's right.
And so, but yeah, I take it quarterly. But I love, Leslie, that you do your cards. I'm not as good as at the cards. I do reach out to people and say happy birthday, but I don't send the card. So that's nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Linda. I love, and that's, again, the idea here is somebody's going to be like, I don't like that. Like as Leslie said, Anthony's like, I'm not doing that. You're like, cool. But here's what you are going to do. And you're going to do that really, really well. And,
right.
And
I did do pop buys this year, again, 2 years in a row, but only in the fall. I haven't done spring pop buys. So those are the things we're kind of, we try to evaluate each time.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. Team Coast, how's it going? Speaking of someone who does cards and's got pretty dialed in, tell the rest of us what you tell me on a regular basis, because I think everybody would benefit from sort of how you see your yearly marketing and the stuff the nuggets that you've got planted in the calendar year.
Yeah, so like the others, I do the big things that I've done for 30 years. I still send the calendar, even though people are digital. Because I'm still one that I'm a ninja. I'm one of the ninjas.
Yep.
Haven't done the Feeney, but I know enough about it and people have done it. So I kind of blend a little bit of that. So I had so many people on my list that I thought this is way too many after 40 some years. So I had to just say, okay, just narrow it down to like 350. And then I even narrowed it down to more like my tribe and then my clan, even more like 45.
Yeah. Yep.
So I send everybody the calendar, I send calendar to everybody, royals to cheese to everybody. And that's probably 350. And then my 150, I do the BHG magazine.
Is that a 150 inside of the 350? Or
yeah. So I take that 350 and I pick maybe 150. That's kind of a floating number. And they all get my BHG magazine. And then probably the 50 I do, and everybody I do notes to. So maybe the 50 and the 150, I'm really sending them personalized. Like I do the card system where I send them out through promptings. And so I can take my pictures that I do stock them on Facebook. I do have closing anniversaries. I'm sporadic on birthdays. It's whoever over the years that I've managed to figure that out and put it in. Because I'm going to lean into Moxie this year. It would help me a lot on that. So I do the neighborhood news and on the newsletter and stuff like that we've started, which I've got to really get better at that. And because I don't have a social media person that helps me do that.
Right.
So that could be more consistent. That I think would help. But I do a lot of it. And I really focus on not a neighborhood anymore like I did years ago, farming. I really just focus on my tribe and my clan. And then I call, or I see those people now where at the gym or at church, or
Mhm.
that's all changed since before it was kids and sports and all that. But the main thing is you're connecting at maybe any level, just so they see your face, they know where you are. Even longtime people, like I did my fall pop by. That's probably the only. I'm going to do a spring one, like Linda said, but my fall one I've done the pumpkins, and it's pretty random. And especially this year, things happened, and I had 50 pumpkins sitting in my house, and I had to get them out. So I really didn't worry about who. I didn't worry as much about who. I just thought, I got a big city here. I've got to concentrate on certain areas. So I dropped one to a guy that I sold 30 years ago. I honestly just knocked on the door and met his daughter and his granddaughter, and wow, how you doing? So that was really random, but he enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Speaking of getting out of your comfort zone, just reaching out. I mean, I don't know that there's many of us on the call listening to this recording that I know that are like, I haven't talked to this person in 20 years. I'm going to go knock on their door and be like comfortable with that. Like that makes me uncomfortable even.
But he gets my mail. So even though, even though we don't talk, he knows I'm here somewhere. I mean, he knows I'm still around. So they get my mail. And so because I'm doing the cards and things, it really keeps my list current. Yeah. So that helps. And, you don't get everybody. Somebody sold this year and I didn't get them. So you never know what relationship they had with somebody else. And, that just happens. But I think it's as long as they know, even though it's been 20, 30 years, but people still call us all the time. And sometimes they call Larry and not me because it's a house question or HVAC question. And I'm like, you need to tell me that because that's important because they remembered to call you. Because I did a client care thing about, I think I started that in like 2005, where I just called and said, hey, we're here, even though the transaction closed a long time ago. It's not a finite thing. And that reminded me on a ninja call like 2 weeks ago that we think of a transaction and everything else, a football game, a basketball game, start and end. Transactions have a start and end. Really, it's infinite because all those people that you meet, all your service people that you have a relationship with, it's an infinite thing. It just keeps building.
And I think Brian Buffini talks a lot about the vendor to vendor referrals or the vendor business referrals are, he calls it, that sort of second source of hidden income in your database. Leslie, I'm going to ask you that question. Do you anything that you do for vendors that sort of is part of like your marketing strategy? And Linda, I'm going to come to you with that same question. Just thanks for bringing that up.
We do. Like, we do all the same thing that Linda and Marian have mentioned. Our team does the same thing, every single month. I do a weekly email, and it's a personal email that goes out to my entire COI, and we include vendors on that. So what we do is I spotlight a vendor every single week. That helps my COI keep up with the list of the people that, whether it's a tree trimmer or a plumber or, an estate sale company, anything like that. And we do. So I do make sure that I thank my vendors, and I have another agent in the office. We do share a lot of the same vendors. We've been in the business together for a very long time. And we've actually talked in the last month or so, doing sort of a vendor breakfast and bringing our vendors together as a thank you and as just to be able to get together. And I'll tell you, it is when Brian Buffini talks or anybody talks about that hidden source of business, I've gotten business from vendors before, just from the thank yous that I send them. I send them thank you notes all the time. But we try to be as intentional with our vendors as we are with our COI. And I have gotten buyers and listings. One vendor who, is a radon company. One of the managers, I've sold his house and I've sold, bought another house. He knows so many realtors in the city here in the Northland. He could go to anybody. So remember, don't just be intentional with your COI, but with anyone who helps you get to your goals. Anyone.
I love that so much, Leslie, because the truth is, if you own a business, they struggle with the same things that you do, generating leads. And no one who does, it's the E-Myth revisited concept, right? Like, I'm a great house painter. and I can paint houses all day, but if I don't have anybody to let me paint the house, that's, and I will say that idea of bringing your vendors together for a vendor specific mixer. Hey, you're the best tree guy I know. You're the best radon guy I know. I don't know if you guys should know each other, but maybe, right? And that's a huge piece. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jake, and Leslie, there is a question from the group. How do you qualify the vendors you recommend? So what is your vetting process for your vendors?
So that's a very good question. Your vendor's an extension of you, and you have to be very careful. I don't just reach out to do that. My vendors are tried and trusted. I have to use them if they come from a source of another agent. And even within our brokerage, we all have our little emails, or we have our Facebook pages. And I will always say, I need a vendor that you have used before, that you trust, you can give me an actual review on. I call the vendor. I always talk to the vendor before I refer somebody. I want to know how they work. And it's so funny. Even my title people, even my lenders go, that was a really long email, Leslie. Thanks for giving us a background of your client. And I'm like, well, I want you to know their personality and who they are before you talk to them, so that you can already in your mind. Because I tell my vendors, look, I want to give you every chance to win that bid. So here's my person. They're very type A. They want details. If you tell them you're going to call them at 10 tomorrow, you better call them at 10 tomorrow. Okay. Or I just want them to know that ahead of time to give them the best way to.
Such a great thing. You're like, I don't want it to be a trick. Like, I want you guys to have a great relationship, but also it's like dating. Here's the personality. This may not be, you may not want to have business with this person, and I'm okay with that, but I need to know up front that you're a little more casual in how you run your business, because this agent or this client is not casual.
Exactly. Or this particular person can be a little difficult. So I just want to give you a heads up. Can you be patient? Are you okay with lots of calls or follow-ups or questioning or things like that? That way they know, because you don't want that phone call going, hey, I called your fence guy, but he was really rude. It's the last call you want to get. So.
Perfect. I thank you for that, Leslie. Linda, sorry to leave you sort of there for a second. Anything that you're doing for your vendors?
Linda,
you might be muted, Linda. I hope I didn't. Did I mute? There you go.
I do send out the calendars also, like Marian said, and I give some calendars to my vendors. And some of the special ones, I also give them a holiday gift. But I love this spotlight idea. I think that's great. Now, I don't send a weekly email to my clients, but I do send one out every 3 weeks. I have an email marketing company I work with called Happy Grasshopper, and it prompts me to, okay, it's time to send a message. And I have messages to different groups of people. And I love that spotlight idea, Leslie. So thank you for sharing that. And I agree with you.
Absolutely.
You do need to vet the vendors. And that's something that we need to work on. Our company booklet that we have, we need to update it.
Yeah.
And
I was having some of the thoughts on that too, Linda. Sorry to interrupt you, but I am such a huge fan, and I think of this still to this day. Growing up, my parents had the book in the drawer, right, which was of course the junk drawer, but the real estate agent at the time, and this is like the 80s, had like a vendor guide and vendor directory. And I will go on the record to say there is a magic to that, even more so today than, yes, you can do it online, and yes, those things are fantastic and you can update it, but you got a book that sits somewhere, and maybe it gets lost in the drawer, right? But then you get to update your book every 3 or 4 months, and you get to drop off a new book, and it becomes sort of this go-to guide that it's branded to you. So I'm gonna do some noodling. Jennifer, I can see you're already writing this down to remind me.
I am. We've been talking to CC about it, and
awesome.
Anyway, so but I think paying more attention to the vendors. one of my painters, I'm working with him right now on an investment property. So yeah, you definitely get business from them if you treat them right and they treat you right. So
that's again the hidden source. Thank you for repeating that for me, Leslie. That's that hidden source of extra income. And before we move off, Marian, I was going to ask you. You said something, and I made a note of it. Do you send how many magazines do you send?
About 150
Every month?
every month, and the price went way up last year, but I
Yeah.
felt like it was still valuable. And more than ever since they changed to, I forgot the company they branded it.
Oh, we lost you there for a second.
Can you hear me?
No, now I can. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So the company that when the BHG magazine really changed, and I'm losing who that was that they
Me too.
marketed with about 3 years ago. It started at Christmas when they came out with Oprah on the cover. Anyway, it was so much of a better design. I had pulled away from it because I didn't like anything about the magazine, the size, the paper, and then it dramatically changed. So when I leaned into it and thought, well, this is something they're going to see every month. So it's just something, it's branded,
Yeah.
even though it's not branded. And inside every page, it still has some of our ads and our name. Our name is huge. So, and I do the Better Homes and Gardens. I don't send anything else, not any other magazine.
Yep, totally.
That even if they want it, I just send it. So that one I think is a huge one. Yeah, that one's big.
Thank you. I had no idea I knew you sent magazines. I had no idea it was that many. I'm going to make you a special Magazine Queen award because and you, the rest of you out there, I'm going to go on record. You're welcome to compete for that record and title, and I will make all of you awards and ribbons and crowns. I don't care. You know that I think the magazine is the easiest thing, and I know where you're at time. I'm going to do this. If you have to jump off the call because you've got a commitment, I totally understand because I promised you 10:30. I am going to take about 8 to 10 more minutes to just sort of talk high level about some of the concepts that we're going to introduce for the office meeting, for action series and things like that. So if you need to jump off, totally understand. I want to get it on record more for the recording for anybody else than anything else. Thank you to all of our special guests for sharing some really great stuff in there. And I know that I would like to do more of this collectively, as I say, to unlock the wisdom in the room and have you guys share the great stuff you have. So thank you, Linda. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Team Coast behind the scenes. Steve, I know you're there as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Hang on one second, Jake. Thank you very much,
Thank
Marian.
you.
She was a last minute addition.
Yeah.
It was not included in our email yesterday that I sent out. So thank you for stepping in at the last minute. I appreciate it.
And speaking of getting an assignment at the holiday party, there was another one right there. So, so a couple high level things. Tactical planning. Brian Buffini talks about this, and this is really where my process for me really sort of evolved. And I'm not perfect at it by any stretch. Leslie, I know that you do it month by month. The truth is, and I say this lovingly, I don't care what your system is. I care that you have a system, whatever that looks like to you. And I know that for me, if I don't put some big things in, and the easy conversation from my end is to say, here's what I say to myself. When am I going to go to California and see Hamilton? So I put those things in my calendar, and sometimes that's it. It's like, well, I'm going to go out in September because he's usually got something with sports going on. Obviously the holiday is going to be a big chunk. February, he's got what they used to call ski week, right? How ridiculous is it that California schools have a ski week? And also it's a little hoity-toity. Like, can we just call it spring break? So there's usually a week there and then in the summer. So if I don't put those things in, not that they don't happen, but then when Jennifer's like, hey, can you do something in February? And I'm like, sure. Well, if it's not in my calendar, there's a good chance it's going to get overwritten. And I don't want to conflict on either side. Right. So putting your company events in, and then the office level events, and then your agent events, if you can get those in. Here's a totally made up calendar, but this could be what it looks like for some of you. Right, you've got quarterly. Well, I'm going to do a video every quarter. Cool. I don't know when it's going to be, and that's okay. But you're committing to this idea of doing a video every quarter, right? You're going to do a big batch of CMAs to everyone, and I know most of our agents do something like that. I'm going to do that in January. In is just neighborhood news, right? So that's going to go every month out of Moxie. That's automated. I put in the COC events, which we have. I put in a client party. Hey, don't forget July, you're going to have the entire month of June and July, by the way, from a marketing standpoint, are going to be very interesting because of the World Cup happening. I'm already working with some business people I know, helping them plan some activities and some video and some content. Does this need to be your calendar? Not necessarily. Could it be? Sure. But what it does is it lets me stand back and say, like, do I have any gaps? Or are there any spots which maybe I might have too much going on? Maybe neighborhood news, it's automated. So I don't need to overthink it. The rest of the stuff is sort of up to you. I'm going to do magazines every other month or something like that. The idea is just to sort of get a sense of, are there any gaps, right? There's a gap in November. Yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy in November because I'm getting ready for the end of the year. And if it's not automated, I'm not going to be doing it. So in your office meeting, make sure to bring your calendar of this. And I think, Jen, you included that in our, what I'll call our downloadables, to take this to the office meeting and start chunking some stuff in. Any thoughts there, Jennifer? Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you the entire time.
Oh gosh, no, I know this is a big passion of yours, so I'm letting you go with it. I will put another copy of this in our folder today when we're off this meeting. It is part of that GPS booklet from last lesson, but I will pull out just this page and include it in the lesson 3 for these materials, so it'll be easier to find.
Awesome.
Marian raised her hand. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. I didn't know what COC was. Sorry.
Oh, Community Outreach Committee. So that is our harvesters, backyard bash for Operation Breakthrough, the VCP event, and Ring the Bell.
Yep. And I believe these are actually correct in their dates. I
Yes.
asked Jennifer, I was like, hey, when are the dates? Because I might as well put them in correctly. So
Yes. And I was thinking about it was really great last week or 2 weeks ago at the meetings, the company or the office meetings. There were some really cool office ideas for how to do agent events, how to do office events, because we talked about the difference between corporate events, the office events, and agent events. And so I was thinking about creating a list of those ideas so that could be shared across, and the ideas that were given to us today too by our 3 special guests. So I took lots of notes.
Thank you for being amazing, Jennifer.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're the best teammate ever. Seriously. So a little bit of a shift, and we'll talk again more about this in the office meeting. This concept was introduced to me about 10 years ago by a presenter I was doing some stuff with, and it stuck with me. And I refer to this in my brain all the time. And it's my opinion, but I sort of lean to it. It was created by this company called Trusted Advisor, and they've got some great content. It's, I've gone through all their stuff, and my job is to package it for you guys. But it's this idea that the trust is gained through a combination of credibility, reliability, and intimacy, right? And right off the bat, a little proof of concept, Brian Buffini says, the only thing your clients care about is character and competence, right? Credibility, reliability. And I always have added this idea that there is that personal factor in that, which Brian's system's built on, Ninja's built on, and so many other pieces. So this really resonates across all the different coaching pieces. What I love about this, and I always point this out, this self-orientation piece at the bottom, if you know much about math, you can't divide by 0. So the idea that there has to actually be some element of you talking about yourself, which might be awkward for us. But hey, here's a property I have listed. Here's what I'm doing. Here's a thing. Look, it's kind of like you saying, look at me. But we have to have more than 0 in that bottom part of the formula for the math to actually work. So I'm giving us permission to say things like, here's my listing, here's my open house, here's me doing the work. That proof of concept. But along the way, I'm going to encourage us to work on our credibility, reliability, and intimacy, right? This builds on a little bit of the what idea, right? I know when I'm going to do something, but now the question becomes what? Does this activity affect my credibility, my reliability, or give the client some level of intimacy? Because we know full well that intimacy factor as weird as it is the thing that makes us most valuable. So what I've done for you guys, and I did this a couple of years ago, is I turned that formula into what I call the AV list. And again, I'll share all of this content with you guys, and you're going to talk about it in your office meeting. I basically said, well, by building trust, if we do videos, here's a bunch of video concepts that all, because I love alliteration and making things consistent, I called it my AV list. Here are things that start with the letter A that you can do as video content, or you can do it as just a regular post. That's okay too. That helps you build credibility, reliability, and intimacy. So you can see in the little parentheses, I've sort of noted what I think those contribute to. So if you talk about the community, area, activity, atmosphere, right? It's credibility, that you understand the area, reliability, I'm doing these consistent things, working in the area, and intimacy. Maybe you're talking about some favorite restaurants you go to, or a great neighborhood park, or a vendor that lives in that area. Right? Same with audience. You could do an entire chunk just talking about the things, hey, the 3 most important things you do when you're thinking about buying your first home. Are you thinking about moving up into a bigger home? Here's the 3 mistakes that most agents or most clients make. Right? We'll talk more about this. I would love to have lengthy conversations with any of you about this content, because it does 2 things. Get you on video, which we know is important, and also helps add to that trust piece that you already have a great level with many of your clients. I'm just looking to augment that a little bit. So know that in your office meeting on Tuesday, we'll be talking about this. So I always think of this. People need 3 things. This is just Jake's theory. People want 3 things. They want compassion, they want clarity, and they want community. If we can serve those 3 things, and we can give those 3 things, if we can be those 3 things, it really helps us make that connection. And the bottom line here is, now we're finally going to get to the who portion of this equation. I've said this since day one, going on 20 years in coaching real estate agents. And it's hard for a lot of us to hear, but I think many of you said this already. I want you to serve everyone. I want you to take every client that you want to take, but I need you to specialize in something, right? It's just incredibly difficult for me to be great or mediocre or decent at everything. What your clients really want, and I think each one of you touched on that with your database and how you've narrowed down your activities. You do treat some people differently for some particular reason, and that's kind of what I want. I want you to specialize in something. It could be a type of neighborhood, a type of client, whatever that is. But I want you to serve everyone, but I really want you to start to use this skill and background you have to lean into a specific thing. And to me, this word psychographics versus demographics, we tend to think in terms of demographics, 30-year-olds that live in this neighborhood, this. I'm like, that's cool and it's valuable, but the psychographic part is really more of the mental piece. Like, what do they think? How do they act? What do they do? What groups do they belong to? Where do you meet them? Where do they hang out? Those are really much bigger elements of determining relationship and thought process. And Leslie, you touched on that when you talked about, hey, I've got type A clients and type B clients, and I handle them very differently. Do I want type A clients? I don't, but I get them and I serve them. Do I really want type B? That's Jake's bread and butter, right? And that's okay. I want us to know that for ourselves. And we'll do a little exercise in the office meeting where you're going to unpack and think about some of those things from a transaction standpoint of, do you actually already have an ideal client that you don't even know about? But sometimes the universe does that for us. So there'll be a handout in the office that will talk about helping you identify who your core audience is in that. Because I think that's a big piece, right? Even if it's 5 to 10 people, but I want to lean into those people. So before we wrap up on that, let me, Jennifer, any thoughts you wanted to add? Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, I think that's great. And I think we kind of touched on that. As you were talking about that, I was remembering that we touched on that just a little bit when we talked about polishing our profile in the first week,
Exactly.
Writing your bio to, you know, if you really specialize in new home buyers, or you really specialized in distinctive collection properties, that sort of thing,
Yep.
to, you know, highlight that. And I think that's important. And I think Marian really keyed in on that too, when she was talking about how she decides, you know, she's got 350 people on her COI. She can't do, she's not doing everything for everyone. Some people get everything, but then she decides who's going to get the magazine subscription and the pumpkin and that
Yep.
sort of thing, which I think is amazing.
I love it. And it's okay to say this, and I have to repeat it to myself. Not everyone deserves the benefit of your time. And that's okay. That's an okay place to be. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. So we'll obviously have our office session Tuesday. So make sure to get into the office or join virtually or however you want, and work through this. This is progress. We're going to use the same progress year again, in the idea that I want us to move the needle just a little bit forward every time. Our next session coming up January 1st, which will not be a recorded session because, you know, we're going to
will be recorded. It will.
Sorry, it will be recorded. I meant to say live session. Thank you. You know, and Jennifer and I will not be recording this on January 1st. I can promise you that. I mean, that might be a fun idea, but I don't know.
Right.
So next topic, we're going to talk about consistently focusing on activities that earn us the highest hourly rate, and how do we get rid of the stuff that doesn't actually feed the bottom line for that. So thinking ahead, your office meeting, Jennifer will get us the handouts, the downloads, the video content of this, and the slides. Again, the question I ask is, show up, be ready to work, and participate. I hear such great things after every office meeting of how much you guys are engaging and staying longer and everything like that. On that note, I've kept us longer than I intended to. Jennifer, any last thoughts? I didn't mean to set you up for that failure by saying, hey, we've run over time.
No, you are totally fine. No last thoughts from me. Just good work, everybody. It's exciting to see so many people on our cool podcast that Jake is going to add theme music to next time.
Theme music next time, definitely, for sure. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all our special guests. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've got credit in the bank of Jake. If you need to make a withdrawal anytime from Jake Durando, you've got lots of credit in my account. So thank you so much. See you guys soon.